I'm here with Ted McGrath, who's receiving an award this evening for his work with Foundation for a Drug Free World. Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's a great honor.
Totally.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about the work you've been doing.
Yeah, so I'm out in front of audiences regularly. I'm a speaker, and I'm also a one-man show performer, so I have a theater show. And one of the things I've always wanted to do was get a message out that impacts people. And so in my own life, I overdosed from drugs and alcohol when I was 21 years old. And I realized that, wow, my dreams almost died inside of me. So since I'm out speaking in front of audiences, I wanted to make people aware. So what we'll do is we'll go out to audiences like in my business, and I'll go and I'll share my life story, and then I'll talk to people about truth about drugs and drug-free world, and then we'll share information with them. And we'll hand out the booklets and information, and then we'll also do PSAs with them to show them just some stories of people who've been affected by drugs, and then we raise money. So we've been doing it for the last year or so. People love it, and we find like in our community, because people are coming for, you know, people in my community are coaches or entrepreneurs and things like that, and they love it because they're all about making an impact as well.
And I've been to your seminars where you get up there and you get everyone involved, you raise money, you get, I mean, the whole room is excited to give you money.
Totally,
you know?
yes, totally, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's fun.
Yeah, it is fun. Also, I've seen your show.
Yes.
And that is something that is, a lot of people wouldn't share the stories that you share.
Yeah.
You're completely vulnerable.
Yeah.
You're up there and you talk about your drug overdose. You go through it completely.
Yeah.
How do you think that affects the audience and people that might be on drugs? Coming to your show going, wait a second.
Yeah, well, I think there's probably a lot of people who come to my theater show and they probably dabble with drugs, or some of them might have drug issues, and I know some of them are parents and their kids are on drugs. And the cool thing is that I think one of the reasons why I started doing drugs a lot was I never communicated on it with anybody. Like, it wasn't my parents and I didn't sit down and have these conversations. There wasn't information for me to look at. There wasn't videos for me to watch. My friends were doing it, I did it. And I feel like when people come to my theater show and they hear my life story and they hear the whole journey of not feeling good enough in my life and seeking approval and turning to drugs, that I think it frees people to communicate on it. And I feel like when they can communicate and go, wow, Ted's sharing something and he's being open, that means I could share it too. And the fact that they actually are able and free to communicate, I think it makes it less of a sticking point for people, and they're like, oh, maybe I can talk to somebody about this.
And also you do this, you don't do the whole show for high schools, but you talk about what you went through in front of, I mean, theaters, the auditoriums full of kids.
Yeah.
How do you think that you speaking on behalf of a drug-free world connects with the kids?
I think it's amazing because we did it a month ago at the high school with 200 kids in Santa Monica. And that was where one of the kids died from drugs. And so I went in and I told a condensed version of my story, like a 15-minute version. And when I was up there, the thing that I tied it to, which is real for me, is I tied it to their dreams. Like, you know, for me, my dream almost died inside of me. And so I started engaging the kids about, like, what are your dreams? Who has a dream in the room? And the kids were all raising their hands. You know, once one went, you know, it's kind of like it go the other way. If it's drugs, like, one goes with the kids, right, who are in drugs. But if people raise their hands, they're like, I have a dream, kids follow that. And so all it took was one person, and then another person, and another person. And this whole auditorium of kids started sharing about people they'd lost to drugs or family members that had suffered from it. And then it was a conversation more about their future and their dreams and how drugs prevents that, you know?
Yeah. Why is drug prevention and drug education so important?
You know, I'll give you an example of it. It happened in my seminar room, and it actually blew me away. We were talking about it, and we were having people share experiences about their experience with drugs, whether they did them or not. And there was a woman who stood up in the back of the room, and she said, oh my God. She goes, I got a piece of information like this when I was younger. And when I read and learned about drugs, she's like, there's no way I'd ever touch that stuff. And so as a young kid, she took a path because she was informed. I was sitting there in the seminar room listening to that, and I'm going, man, like, one piece of information could change somebody's life just from them reading it. And to me, it really brought in the power of the fact that I'm out speaking in front of groups. It's great, like, I can get up and tell a story, but then what do people do afterwards? Like, what's the message that we want to send afterwards that they can take home to their kids, or they can take home to a friend who's struggling? So that was the big breakthrough aha for me.
I think that's the key, is prevention, because once you get hooked on drugs, I mean, that's the path that is the treacherous path. That's the path that's hard to come back from.
Totally.
So I know for me it was, the fear of God and my dad. And he talked to us about it. He wasn't afraid to talk to us about that.
Yep.
And drugs and what they can do to destroy your life. And we grew up with that communication. But when you don't have that communication at home, and maybe your parents are doing drugs, programs like these are so important.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Even the communication on like alcohol and understanding that, because I was 13 years old sitting around having a beer with my dad, and it was like fun, social, doing whatever. Next thing you know, it's marijuana, then it's this and it's that, and yeah.
So what's next for you in a drug-free world?
I have an event coming up. So I'm going to speak to about 400 people in August. So I'm going to do the show. And so when I go do the show, clearly I pass out the booklets and make people aware. So that's the next move for us. And then January, we have a huge seminar with about 500-600 people coming from around the world. And so we're going to do a big fundraise the night before. And we're going to raise 6 figures at least for Drug Free World.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
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 Well, congrats on tonight, and
Thanks.
thank you for all the work that you do.
Thanks, you rock.
Yeah.